Ready. So we're going to be back working on our app, this print to scan application that's going to be split three ways with our back end with the Rails API, our front end with our React, and then we're going to wrap that in an Electron so that we can download it on users' desktops. So today what we'll be focusing on is mostly on the controller and the serializer for JSON data. But before we get into too far there, there's a couple of things we need to take care of first that I forgot to do in our last video. So let's go ahead and check that out. Let's go ahead and open Visual Studio Code and let's get started. Right off the bat, there's a couple of things missed, I forgot to do, specifically with this product. We need to connect this product with composition because composition is connecting to these parent and child products, but our products right now aren't connected at all through that. So let's go ahead and add some of that. Let's check this out. All right, so we want to first connect it to our composition uh, model. So it has had many compositions. We'll have a foreign key of parent product. Oh, can do this right. Foreign key of parent product ID. So we're basically saying we want to find all the products or all the compositions that has this product as the parent product ID. And we just want to be sure search in the class of composition. Then we want to figure out all the child compositions from this parent product. So we will do has many components, components through our composition. And we want the source to be the child product. Then we also want to be able to do the reverse. If we're a child product, we want to see all the parent products that are associated with this composition. So let's do has many parent compositions with a foreign key of child product ID and the class name composition again. And then we want to figure out all the parent products that are associated with this. So we will have has many parent components through parent compositions with our source being the parent product. And so what this is basically is looking for in our compositions, it's looking for a method called parent product and calling that, and that will be the source for our parent compositions. So there we go. We got all these different relationships that connect the product to the composition and then back to its either parent or child product. Excellent. Next, we also I forgot to do this in our batch. Instead of doing something like these subcomponents with a foreign key of batch ID, what this should be is source of batch. And then here we also need to change this from foreign key to source and do that as parent batch. And so this is looking for, in our assembly, these parent batch and batch methods. So there we go. Check that off. And then we also I believe in our item, we forgot to do has many through for the UDI params. Do that through UDIs. And let me just double check a couple things. Item, UDIs, product. Excellent. All right. And so those are just a few things that we need to take care of. Let's go ahead and uh, add that to our repository. So we'll do git add, git commit, clean up, model relationships, and then git push. And there we go. Alrighty, so now all of our models are correctly set up. So we're going to work on doing our routes and our controllers and our serializers. So a serializer is basically a way to package all the different various components in a model or a data set that we want to send in a JSON format. So for this, there's going to be a lot of these different models we want to be able to send back, and we want to be able to serialize. So before we even start creating some serializers, I'm going to create a helper folder with a serializer helper first, and we'll do serializer helper.rb. Basically, what we're trying to do is uh, when we're eventually setting up our serializers, or we want to pass some parameters to the serializers in case we want to add or exclude certain properties that we may not need or we might need for a specific thing. So let's go ahead and let me just copy what I got over here. And so we're adding this model called serializer helper, and it's got a couple of methods inside this model. So we've got this includes and this attribute, and it's going to be returning this proc. This proc is basically sort of like a callback function in JavaScript. We're able to pass back something that can be called later without having to return this right away. So basically, we're going to be passing in an attribute that we want to check. In this proc, we'll be sending it a record and params, and we're just basically checking to see if that attribute is in that params hash. And the same thing over here, except we're just checking to make sure it's not there in that attribute. And that way, when in our serializers, we can pass in parameters and say we want to include or exclude specific attributes depending on the circumstance. So now that's set up. Let's go to our controllers. And I just have one thing that I want to add on this controller here. Let's double check that. Let's go to our controllers, application controller. And when we're working with this gem that I'll be showing here in a second, in order to pass in the parameters, we have to pass in a hash that has the name of params. So basically, we're just creating this simple method that's going to be setting params. We're going to pass in the arguments, and we're just going to pass that argument straight into a key called params. And that's all we're going to be doing. We're going to be working with a gem called JSON API serializer, and that I should say, maintained by Netflix. But Netflix is no longer maintaining that, and there's a different organization that's doing that right now. But it focuses on creating really fast serializers with large data sets, which will be great for us. So let's go ahead and add that to our gem file so that we can get working on that. So we'll go to gem, JSON API-serializer, and then we just need to make sure we bundle install this. So let's go ahead and get back into our backend, and let's do bundle install, and there we go. And all those gems are part of it now. So we've got our controller set up with a set params. We've got our helper method here, and we've installed a gem file. So let's go ahead and add that back to our GitHub account. So we'll go git add, git commit, JSON API gem plus serializer helper. There we go. Let's go ahead and let's create some routes so that we know where we're going to be heading towards. So let's go to pull this up. Yeah, routes. So basically today, all we're going to be focusing on is just uh, the index methods for these controllers. We're not going to be worried about creating or getting a specific um, file out. We're only going to be concerned about the index uh, and making sure our JSON files are up to snuff. So let's go to our config, our routes here. We'll go ahead and clear out that boilerplate. No, let's, oops, forgot that's, it is a copy method. Alrighty, let's get this out and then let's paste in some of these resources. So these are all the models that we're going to be passing at index. Uh, we're going to have a controller set up for index. So we're going to need a controller for UDI, params, items, batches, products, and product groups. So let's create some of those methods. So we can do it two ways. We can do right here on the command line. Let's go back into our backend, and we do Rails generate controller product groups, and we can see in our controller here, it's got this products group controller, uh, and it didn't add the index, but if I did something like, oops, that out. If I did something like Rails generate controller products index, it'll create a back in our product controller, it'll create a method for our index method, which is awesome. So that helps us uh, quickly create up some of our boilerplate code. So we got products group. Let's clear out this all. Close all. Let's bring back our routes and let's create a couple more uh, things here. As you can see, if you include the index method, it automatically tries to add a get method for that. We'll clean this up later. We don't need that. We'll be using our resources method here. So let's go back here, controller. We'll do batches with the index. We'll do the same thing for like items, index, and we'll do the same thing for UDI. I think it's UDI params index. And then we can just delete all these. We don't need those at all. So we can go back here. We can see in our controllers, we got our UDI params controller, our products controller, our products groups controller, our items controller, and our batches controller. Excellent. Let's double check all of that really quick. Sweet. So, and all these things are going to more or less have the exact same thing. We'll be returning all of the uh, for this one, we'll be returning all the records for UDI params, and then we'll be serializing that using our serializers. So let's go ahead and create some serializers. So generate serializer. It's a tough word to say. And we will do this, let's do for products. And then in our serializer, it automatically does a couple of things. It'll create a class, product serializer, and then it will include this JSON namespace serializer that is inheriting from, or it's passing in um, the model serializer from our JSON API serializer gem, which will be helpful. We also want to be passing in our own Rails, or sorry, our own helper model. So, double check something. That's not what I want. Back up to serializer, serializer. So includes methods that are for instance methods, and then extend does the same thing except for class methods. So our serializer helper is it's going to be a class method. thing because we'll be passing in stuff into these macros that are part of the class. So that's what we want. So a couple of things I like to sort of separate things out for convenience sake. So we want to have three basic uh, parts of our serializer. We want to make sure we have our attributes. We want to have our relationships, and we want our key transforms. Attributes, this accepts an array of different attributes that can be called on an instance of a model. Um, and then we can be able to specify some specific attributes later on if we want. So let's go ahead and add some attributes. Let's do the name, the description, the sales price, and the purchase price. And then we're going to create some optional uh, attributes depending on whether or not we pass in a params with that name. So let's do attributes, so a single attribute, and we will do this for batches. And sometimes we may not want all the batches. We just want to know what batches we have, but not the actual batch model. So we only want to include the batches if in our params that we pass in, if it includes the batches. So we're going to be using the method include or includes from our JSON, our serializer helper here, and we're going to pass in this if here, which is just a key in this hash that we're building out. And we want to use the method includes and then batches. So instantly this will run because this is a method call, and it will return in our serializer helper that proc, that sort of callback function, and then if can use that callback function when needed. So we have our batches and then our attribute components. We'll do if and include components, and then attribute. Actually, this last one, we don't, I don't know if we might want a time when we want all the items for a specific product, but most of the time I just want a count of how many items there are. So we'll do a custom attribute here called item count, and we will just pass in a block with this object, and we'll just do object.items.count. And that just passes in this item counts as an attribute within the serializer. And that's how we go. Relationships. I like to include all the relationships. A lot of times you don't actually need to know the different relationships between products or between models and stuff. But I like to include whatever belongs to and has many that we've got going on here. So let's go ahead and has many batches and has many components. And because components here is a method in our products that doesn't point to a model, we need to pass in a specific serializer that we'll create later that specifies what kind of type it is. So we'll do serializer. Oh, and we want that lowercase. And we will do this as product. Or, yeah. So basically, we're going to call the method components, but we're going to use the serializer called products. And then key transform. Essentially, we want to make sure that we want this sent in a JavaScript sort of way. So we want to be able to set the key transform to the camel lower standard. So we'll just do a set key transform, and all these are just methods being enacted on our uh, class lower. And there we go. And that's all we need for this product serializer. So what we can do is we can actually demonstrate this in our controller. So if we go to a products controller, we have its index. First, we want to find all the products. So we'll do product that all. That's all. And then we just want to render that as a JSON. And we want to use the product serializer. We want to call a new method there, and we want to pass in some params. So we want to do, I'll just double check something really quick. Go to so we want to pass in products, and then we want to use the helper method that we established within our application controller, and we want to do set params, and we want to pass in a hash. And essentially, all we want to do is, uh, for right now, let's just do batches, and we'll say that's true. So in our serializer, it's going to uh, run through all these products, and then it's going to check the params that we're sending in here in the second argument. Uh, it's going to look for a key called params, and then in our product serializer helper, it's going to check whether batches is set to true or a true fee. In this case, it is. So now we've got all that set up, we can actually start seeing it demonstrated on uh, on our server. So let's go ahead and actually run a server. We'll do Rails S or Rails server, and it's going to be on port listening on localhost 3000. So let's pull that up and do localhost 3000. Let me change a couple things here so you can see my screen and do focus screen. There it is. So we're on localhost 3000. This is the boilerplate things when we land on the index or land on the root and we don't have anything set up. But we can go ahead and go to products and see we have a problem. We have an undefined local variable or method parent product class. Probably means we mistyped something or we needed change something that I forgot to do. So let's go back there and let's see what's going on. So in our thing, it said we have an undefined local method or variable called parent product. In this would probably be in our product class. So let's go double check that product class, controllers, serializers, views, models, products, and it's having an issue with this line here. So let me double check what I had before. Do that's controller, models, product. That's parent composition, parent product, parent component, parent composition. So let me double check. In our composition, maybe I forgot something. There. Parent product, foreign key, parent product ID. Class name of product belongs to a child product, foreign key, child product ID. Class name of product has many assemblies. Hmm. Oh, you know what? Composition, parent product. Not finding it there. Oh, you know what? This is just empty text. It's not actually a symbol. So I just need to add that there. I think we probably should be good. So let's change this back to our screen and pull this back up. We have another issue. Alrighty. So it's looking for wrong argument type, simple expected module. You know what? These is supposed to be includes and not include. So let's change that in our serializer. Yep, see where it's trying to use the word includes when it should, or include instead of includes. And let's try this again. And we have another issue. Can't try to find batch serializer. So right now, because we don't have a batch serializer right now, so it's going to freak out. So let's just go ahead and comment that line for right now, and then we'll go back to it later on. So it has many batches. Let's go ahead and comment this line out, and let's refresh this page. Still doesn't like it. Probably still need to do the other one as well. And let's go back here, and let's cannot resolve a product serializer class product attempt to. Oh, you know what? Usually you don't have this S in here, so let's go ahead and rename some stuff. Product. And let's just go ahead and rename this to product serializer and product serializer there. And let's just go double check in our controllers our product that we're calling on product serializer and not products serializer. And let's double check this again. And there we go. And here is our JSON data formatted for us. And we can basically see that we have this data here, and it's an array. And in this array is each individual product. So we have this first product. We only have one product in our array right now, but we have a first product of ID with a type of product, attributes, some things, and we even have this item count that we didn't even include in our model. And then we also have this relationships, which include the components for right now. And right now we will include batches later on, but we don't have a serializer for that, so it tends to freak out. So let's go ahead and keep on working on this. We'll go ahead and turn off this server and let's create some things. So let's do a batch serializer so we can include that in our product serializer. Actually, let me use the command line here. It's easier. Generate serializer batch. And we've got this batch serializer here. I'm going to go ahead and copy a lot of this stuff we got in our product serializer. We'll be reusing a lot of it. I'll go ahead and include that in our batch serializer. So we've got the attributes here, and in our attributes, let me just double check something real quick. Change that over, and let's see. We've got a few things we want to include. So let's go ahead and include those attributes. We've got the manufacturing date, MFG, the expiration date, and we also want to know when it was created on, just to give us an understanding of the life cycle of a specific batch. We also want to be able to add some custom attributes or optional attributes if we need to. We'll use the subcomponents that we created in our batch model. And what we want to do for this one is that we want to include it every single time unless we say otherwise. So in this case, we're going to use the excludes method that we have in our serializer helper instead of the includes. And we'll just use subcomponents. And we also, because subcomponents isn't going to be pointing to any specific serializer, we want to pass in the serializer that it's going to be needing. In this case, it's going to be batch because it's going to be just a child batch of this current batch. And we want to do the same sort of thing except for the parent components. So we'll go ahead and change some of this subcomponent to parent components. And we don't want to include this every time. So unless it says to include that, we won't worry about it. And then we also want to include the items if we ask for it. If I can do this right, includes items. Excellent. And we can go ahead and delete all those things. And we can delete those things as well. Some of the relationships we want to include will have the has many subcomponents, the has many parent components, and has many items. And we'll just leave this set key transform as camel case lower. Excellent. Let's create another serializer. Let's do, let's see what's next. Let's do items. Rails serializer item. We've got this item serializer. Go ahead and copy all this again. And let's delete all those and delete all those. Some of the things we want to include in our item serializer is the item status, the location, the represents, the UDIs, and the UDI params. Makes sense to include all the different uh, unique identifiers on these items, as there wouldn't be really a case when you wouldn't want to identify it by its UDI. But we do want to include an optional attribute here for its batch. And we only want to do that if it includes batch. So the relationships we want to do belongs to batch and has many UDIs, UDIs, has many UDI params. And we can leave it like that. Excellent. That's good. Let's create the next one. Let's do the product groups. Rails generate product serializer first. Serializer product group. And we can go ahead and copy what we did last time. And we can delete all those, delete all those. And let's double check this. Let's include the name, the weight, the color, the length, the width, the height, and the material. All the attributes in there. And let's also do an attribute. Let's type something at one point. Let's optionally pass in the products if we want the products. If includes products. And we do has many products. Oh, let me do this right. Products. And I think that's good. Let's do the next one. Let's do the UDI param serializer. UDI, unique. You know what? I don't know if I've been doing this right. If it's UDI or UID, unique identifier should be UID. What have I been saying before? Item UDI. Let's change that. UID. UID. There we go. And color material has many products. All right. UID param. This one's going to be fairly simple. We won't even include any relationships with this, but we'll just pass in the name of this param as well as the regular expression pattern that we'll be passing on. Everything else is all right, and I think I just did something bad. I did. Let's do this in the product scripts when I should have been doing the UDI params. My bad. Let's let's just do I don't even need any of the helpers right now. I just do regx there, and set key transform to camel lower. There we go. Let me just double check a couple of things. Attribute, 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 attribute. Yep, there's the attribute with T there. Alrighty. And let's do the last one of a Rails generate serializer for UID. And let's copy this, go to our UID, paste that in there, delete some of this stuff. And let's do the item value for this, as well as the UID params. And we'll do a relationship that belongs to the UID param. Actually, it's going to be param, not params. And we don't really need this. I'll comment that out. We might need it later, depending on what we are going to be doing. So that should take care of all the different serializers that we're going to be using. With our product, we can go ahead now and uncomment these out because they should be working now. And let's test this and make sure it's working. So let's go back to Rails and let's do the server again. And then let's switch over to our local host. If I do this right. And let's go ahead and refresh this. And you can see we've got some things that are not exactly working. So exclude serializer, subcomponents, around line 17. Oh, you know what? Look at this. I've got my ifs backwards. So let's go back in there and let's go back to our product serializer, or which one is this? I think this is a product group serializer. Nope, which one was that? It was in the products controller. Clearly not. Batch, that's what it was. And let's go back here and you can see our ifs are backwards. So let's go ahead and switch that out. And hopefully that works. Go ahead and refresh. We got another error. Serializer batch. Exclude to include subcomponent. Unexpected symbol token. Our line 7 and 8. So it's not liking it for whatever reason. Let me double check something. Back there. Now let's double check. It's in our batch serializer. Let's go back there. And let's double check some stuff. Attribute sub components if excludes. Make sure it's what did I do differently? Serializer. Oh, here it is. For this one, we looks like we forgot to include it, make it a hash of the key. So go ahead and do that. And then if we go back to our focus screen, we can check this out. And you can see now in our products, when we're doing the index, we can see the data, we've got our products. And now because we passed in the batches, it also includes all the batch data. including more than we want. I didn't want the updated at. How come it's using that? We'll tackle that later. But yeah, that is all those different serializers. So we check that off. We check that off. We did that. And now let's just copy some of this stuff into our controllers so that we can do the same thing for all these different ones. So I'm going to copy this into our batches, and we'll just, oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Let's go back to our controller here, and let's just copy this information. And let's go to our batches here, paste that in there. We'll forget about doing some of those other things, but we will just change this to batches. And then we just want to make sure we're going to be using the batch serializer as well as the batch model. And this is probably simpler, so we can go ahead and copy that. Let's go to our items, copy this, and we'll do item, items, and item, and items. Products group, same thing. I'll just call this PG, product group. And we just want to make sure we're using product group serializer as well as using the PG. Good. We got that. And then we have our UDI params. Let's go ahead and U params, then UID param, and UID param. And we'll just do U params. And now, in theory, go back up here and we do something like items. Oh, did not like that. Undivided. Oh, I misspelled represent somewhere. So let's go double check that. It might be in our serializer. Yep, represents is misspelled. Represents. Let's try this again. Didn't like that. Undefined method UID paramos. I'm really good at spelling things. So let's go back there. And I think that was our items serializer again. UID paramos. Params. There we go. There we go. And there is our items serialized. Excellent. And let's see here. Let's do our product group. There we go. We have our different product groups. Excellent. Let's do batch. Do batches. Oh, we got something going on here. We don't know what this is. Created on. Alrighty. Let's go double check that. Let me pull up the schema really quick. Under our DB file, the schema created at, and I use it created on. That's not what we should be doing. So let's go back to our batch and let's do created on or created at. And let's see if that works. Cannot resolve serial class for subcomponents. All right, so we've got an issue with some of our serializer calling on subcomponents, which we don't want it to do. So let's go back to our batch here, and it's saying, let's see, subcomponents, it doesn't like that. So let me double check some things. It does not like trying to find a serial class for a subcomponent within our batch. Parent component. Did I include serializer batch? Nope. See. Okay. So it looks like we forgot to include a serializer for these relationships as well, which we need to do. Oh, and we'll copy that right on over. There we go. Let's go back to the screen here. Let's check this out. And there we go. We got our batches. Excellent. And let's go to our UDI or UIDs. Nope, because we don't have anything for that, which is good. Let's go our UID params. We only got one. Excellent. And there you go. And that's how we do some serializers. We just created controllers for various different models so we can access our data from our front end. This data will then be able to pass to our React application, which we'll be starting up next time. So thanks for watching.